What's up, everybody? This is the Sports League Podcast. Back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got the co host, Amanda. Amanda, the draft is in Green Bay this year. You excited?
It's awesome. I mean, it's such a unique football town, like all the houses just right there and stuff. So it's a great opportunity for them. So I'm excited that they get to host it since, we won't ever get a Super Bowl there. So
And then Chad Brown, a great guest to have on the show, a friend of the show. You've been on it like 10 times, and it's always awesome to have you on.
It's always great to be on with you two. It's a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to a little draft conversation here.
yeah.
Absolutely. Um, Chad is a former Colorado Buffaloes national champion, a former second round pick in the 1993 NFL draft, and played 15 seasons in the NFL as linebacker with the Steelers, Seahawks, and Patriots. So great guest to have on.
So
Go
Chad,
ahead,
tell
Amanda.
us, what have you been up to during the NFL offseason? Are there any specific stories that have been catching your mind? Any trade moves you've been keeping an eye on?
Well, the quarterback carousel was particularly interesting this year, and it's not even over yet because Aaron Rodgers is still out there. So for my
Yeah.
former team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're still trying to figure out who their quarterback is going to be. Um, and it's such a departure for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which I've always considered to be one of the better run organizations in the NFL, to leave obviously such an important position open this long and to rely upon somebody who over the last couple of years has been somebody who either from a health perspective or from a buying in to what is needs to be done perspective has not met the mark. So for the Steelers to be in this spot, it feels a bit odd, but I suppose even the greatest of franchises can miscalculate things. So I expect Omar Khan, their newer GM, to get something done, but we'll see how it all plays out because Russell Wilson didn't get it done last year for them.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's quite a few teams that haven't really solidified the quarterback position, and with it not being a strong quarterback draft, it's kind of up in the air. Where's Shador gonna go? Where's Jackson Dart gonna go? Um, Amanda, Cam Ward expected to go number one overall. I mean, some people aren't, all the way in on Cam Ward being the number one overall pick. How do you see that? I mean, I don't know.
It's interesting to me because there are so many conversations we have and that we see. I mean, we watch the combine stats, like we have researched so much on these players, but there's so much like political behind the scenes stuff going on with GMs and coaches and personalities, and they've met these guys and scouted them. So I have always wished to be a fly on the wall in those draft rooms when they're, putting their board in order and stuff. But I do expect Cam Ward to go number one overall. But Chad, why don't you tell us like what was it like for you for your draft experience? Like, is there anything in particular that you remember? Were you anxious, excited?
I think it's fair to say all the things, all the things. I mean, this is the culmination of, I mean, I started playing tackle football when I was 9, started playing football when I was 6 years old. So all those years, all those dirty socks my mom washed, all the orange slices in Pop Warner and all those things to be in that position on draft day was really, an amazing experience. But of course, there's nerves and anxiety that goes with that. And the range where I could have been drafted was, somewhere possibly late in the first round to all the way to midway of the third round. Um, I got injured my senior year. I broke my hand a couple days before our opening game. I separated a shoulder. I had back spasms, so it was a bit of an up and down year for me. I was fully expecting to be, I'll age myself here, Big Eight Defensive Player of the Year. No longer a Big Eight. Um, I was expecting to be, first team All-American and all these things. And towards the end of the season, once I got healthy, I was really playing some good football, but I was unsure how I was going to be evaluated. So uh, I went out to the Dallas Cowboys and visited them before the draft. I went out to the Pittsburgh Steelers before the draft. And I remember one of the coaches from the Cowboys pulled me aside and said, if you had lifted any weights at all when you were at CU, you would be a surefire first round pick. And I was like, dude, I did lift weights. I just couldn't lift weights this year because I broke my hand. Can't put a bench press bar in my hand with a broken hand and screws and plates in it. Then I separated my shoulder a couple weeks after that. So I was just in a kind of a bad situation. So when I did the 225 bench test on my personal workout on my pro day, I did a whopping 11. So not really good numbers for a linebacker. Anyway, the draft day process after visiting those teams, I was pretty sure it was going to be one of those teams. Um, and in the first round, the Pittsburgh Steelers end up drafting my CU teammate Dion Figures. So he goes in the first round. So I'm like, okay, well, check that one off the list. And so we move into the second round, and I'm at my agent's house, and there's local TV crews and reporters there. And the second round starts, and I'm just feeling too anxious. So I like, man, I'm gonna go down in the basement. I can't watch these picks go by and me not be picked, and then taking pictures of me with my disappointment for the next hour. So he
Yeah.
calls me upstairs when I think we get to like pick 40. And with pick number 44, I'm sorry, with pick number 45, the Washington then Redskins get me on the phone and say, hey, we're going to take you with the 45th pick. And then so my agent says, I'm on the phone with Washington and they're talking me through the process. And he hands me another phone. And I'm like, dude, I'm on the phone with the Redskins. What do you want? He's like, no, the Steelers traded to get the 44th pick to take you. They did have you as a first rounder on their board. In fact, that you slid to the second round, they're now going to pick you. So then I have
You
the
were a
conversation
steal
with
at
Bill
that
Power,
point.
and the rest
Yeah.
is history. And not only do I join my CU teammate Dion Figures there, another CU teammate Ariel Solomon was there, Joel Steed was there. The year after I was drafted, they brought in Charles Johnson, the receiver. Then they brought in Cordell Stewart the next year. So we had an awesome CU connection. So it was the perfect place to go. In that linebacker room of Kevin Green and Greg Lloyd and Levon Kirkland and Marvin Lewis was our linebacker coach and Dick LeBeau was defensive coordinator. It was a perfect place for me to start my career. So all the nerves and anxiety, um, I suppose in some ways was worth it because of where I ended up to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, which is essentially like a Packer. It's almost like football royalty.
It is, yeah. Uh, I it looks like the Eagles have kind of taken that blueprint of the Steelers drafting CU players back then because they've been all over Georgia Bulldogs the last couple drafts. Like they're just, I've been jokingly calling them the Philadelphia Beagles because they're half dog, half eagle. Because I mean, so many Georgia players there now. But it's great to get the college teammates back together. It seems to work really well. You already have the chemistry. You know each other.
Well, I think it pays dividends on the field, as you just illustrated. You know each other, you're familiar with each other. And so when you get there and you've already got a teammate there, and you're learning this new language and this new defense, does someone say, oh, this is just like we ran last year, or 2 years ago at Georgia. This is just our Eagle defense, or this is our Lightning Blitz or our Thunder Blitz. And you go, oh, okay. So now that process is now sped up and it's that much easier. But then off the field as well, as a rookie, you've got a pretty big transition to make. Now, of course, these kids in college now make money, unlike back in my day, but there's still a transition from being a college student, even though you're paid in college now, to being a professional athlete. And so to have a teammate there to also guide you through that process and to show you the ropes. What section of town do you not want to go? What club has the ladies who probably aren't really truly dating material? All those kinds of things.
Keep you out of
Uh,
trouble.
yes, you got somebody to guide you through that process.
I like that point about keeping college teammates like together and that chemistry. To me, I think that's something the Browns could potentially try to do here. There's a lot of talk about them taking Travis Hunter at number 2. And if Shedeur Sanders continues to slide, let's say he falls out of the top 10, could the Browns potentially trade back up into the first round and get Shedeur Sanders? They need a quarterback. They got 40-year-old Joe Flacco. You got to get a young guy in there, and you keep that natural chemistry receiver quarterback with Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders. Do you think that's something possibly on their mind?
I would think so. I think Shador seems to be the player with the most uncertainty around him. Obviously, we know
Yeah.
quarterbacks tend to be overdrafted and go early. But as the quarterback carousel was kind of ending up, He's really only limited to a couple of teams that still really have a need now, and Cleveland being one of them. Their owner essentially expressed that the whole Deshaun Watson thing was a mistake, and that's kind of over. So they're going to have to go in a different direction. And obviously, a 40-year-old Joe Flacco is not any recipe for the future of your franchise. You got to get someone else in there. So a franchise that needs a real kick in the pants from a fan perspective, from an excitement perspective, to bring
Yeah.
in two of the top players, or at least the number one player in college football last year, Travis Hunter, and another top player in who were teammates together, I think would be a way to get all that momentum going and excitement going again. I'm not sure of all the draft capital that the Cleveland Browns have, is how feasible would that move be to slide back up in the first round.
Yeah.
But they certainly, from a organizational standpoint, must have a whole lot of motivation to make some kind of move like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's
100%.
interesting that the owner said, we're not going to force a quarterback. We know we need a quarterback, but we're not going to force a pick at number two. Like it's not going to be worth the draft capital, then we're not going to go after it. And I love that they're being logical about it. Because we've seen players move up to get a quarterback who was kind of questionable coming into the NFL and coming into the draft, and we've seen him be a draft flop. So I like that they're keeping their head on straight and they want to accumulate as many talented players as possible and then deal with the quarterback with however the chips fall.
I think there's something to be said for that, but I think there's a difference between taking a swing at an Anthony Richardson and taking a swing at Shador Sanders. Just because, even separate from the skill set, is the experience. And one of the reasons why, Bo Nix had such a successful rookie year with the Denver Broncos was because he started 61 games in college.
Yeah. He was
Yeah.
in
Shador did
college
a
for a decade. Like,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Shador did a full 4 years as a starter. 2 years at Jackson State and then 2 years at CU. So much football. Saw it from a couple different levels. And so the I think the Anthony Richardson style pick of tremendous talent. Hopefully, we get to his upside with very little experience and track record to prove that out. That's where the swing and misses come from. A quarterback like Shador and guys with that much starting experience, I think you've got to be comfortable as an organization and coach. While he may never become John Elway or Tom Brady, he's also not going to suck. At
yeah.
least we can get some starts out of this guy and get some serviceable years out of him.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I think he's gonna be a very serviceable quarterback. That's the same word I would have used.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then looking at the New York Giants, they're in an interesting situation as well. At the quarterback room, you got Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Tommy DeVito, and it's looking like they're going to draft Abdul Carter. That D line is going to be nasty. You add him to all those weapons, but do you think they need to? I think part of the issue in New York is bringing back the GM for another year and keeping the GM and head coach on the hot seat. So they're not as interested in bringing in a rookie because they need to win now. How do you think that is going to go in New York? I have a feeling it might backfire. We've seen Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston before. I don't know. I think I would rather have cleaned house, brought in a new regime, and started over this season, right?
Uh, I know Brian Dable from my days as a Patriot, and he
Yeah,
was a big part of what they did there offensively. And then he moved on to other NFL stops, was offensive coordinator at Alabama, was part of that national championship team there. So Brian Dable is not a bad football coach.
yeah,
So there's something there. Now we did, as football fans, watch the Hard Knocks, the offseason edition with the New York Giants, and it seemed like Joe Shane left a lot to be desired from a GM when the owner comes in and tells you what his worst fear is, and the owner's worst fear happens, I don't think you can be on much more of a hot seat than that. So I think Joe Shane is definitely on thin ice, and it's going to be critical for him to have a successful draft here. And to your point, would that be going after a rookie quarterback? Because they had a late private workout with Shador just last week. So is
yeah.
that just part of the silly season of the draft and trying to put out smoke screens? Or is that actually some genuine interest? And maybe they are more open to going after a quarterback than a lot of us thought. This is going to be an interesting draft, particularly because the guy we've spent most of the time talking about. And there's a couple of teams who, if they love this guy, are not going to want him slide to 21 where the Pittsburgh Steelers are drafting, they're going to
Yeah.
try to find a way to get him. And while the second pick seems a bit early for somebody to slide into the top 10 and get him at a bit of a bargain kind of thing for a potential starting quarterback, I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of these top 10 picks just need the quarterback situation addressed like now. I can see the Giants as a dark horse for Shador. It doesn't make sense because they have three of the largest personalities in the NFL quarterback position. I wish they hadn't done Hard Knocks last year because Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Tommy DeVito, like those personalities are so completely opposite. Like Russell's very stoic, very like into his religion, very family oriented, kind of a little quirky. Jameis Winston is loudmouth, also very quirky. Tommy DeVito, his mama's cutlets and his, mafia vibes. Like it would just be so funny to have, like it would be entertaining to have the cameras in there. But I could see him swooping up and getting Shador here just to get the fans back on their side. Like Alex is
Yeah.
talking about they need to win now. They also need fans showing up to games and supporting them. And if you draft someone like Shador, who is flashy, who brings in the press, brings in the fans, maybe you get an extra year just for that draft pick and just for going for it in that way.
I would
Yeah.
think so. I think ownership would have to understand that. But because if you go with the room as it's currently constructed, I don't know if you guys remember Titans coach Callahan
Mhm.
going into those press conferences last year towards the end of the season, and him just almost having a mental breakdown, trying to figure out ways to have a post-game presser without saying, you know what, our quarterback sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to say that. And so if Brian Dable is asked to do that and roll with those guys because Jameis Winston is the perfect guy to snatch defeat out of victory's hands because he's going to throw 3 touchdowns, but then he's going to throw 4 fourth quarter interceptions to
Mhm.
lose the ball game. And Russell Wilson's going to look great for a couple of games and throw a couple of nice moon balls. Then it's all going to fall apart again. We've seen this for the last couple of years. So none of those guys in New York would inspire any fan base confidence. So the owner who has to juggle all those things, he's got to work with a coach who wants somebody right now. He's got to work with a GM who's got to think short term and long term. But the owner's got the additional thing. He's got to think about putting some butts in the seats and creating some fan excitement. And certainly a Shador Sanders pick would do just that.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting. And to me, a key thing to keep an eye on is the Raiders pick at 6. They've got a lot of needs on that offense. They brought in Geno Smith, but he's 34 years old. And you can, draft Ashton Genty or maybe Tedero McMillan. Um, do you see the running back? Running back seems to be coming back, and Ashton Genty is definitely worthy of a top 10 pick. Omarion Hampton could go super high. It's a very deep draft at running back. Do you agree with Ashton Genty going to the Raiders? It's a definite need for them.
I think definite need for, and it's hard to imagine him sliding much further than that in the draft. I
Yeah,
know we talked about today. It's going somewhere between 6 and 12. I think the running back is back. And the NFL always goes in cycles.
Yep.
And
yeah,
so big receivers, small receivers, 2 tight ends all the time, no tight ends. And now the running back is back. And because defenses are always going to be put into a bind if you've got a strong running game. And you've
Mhm.
got a quarterback like Geno, who, if given enough help, can be a playoff type quarterback, then you've got to run the ball. Because if it's too much Geno, then that's not going to be successful. But if there's
hmm
some balance there for that offense, if he's able to have some play action pass and do those things based off the run game, then they're going to be far more successful offensively. And that also benefits your defense because now the defense can get rest. The defense can do adjustments on the sideline. That's how you improve your overall team on both sides of the ball by running the damn ball. And you got a running back like Ashton Genty who can do that, who breaks tackles, who's got the speed for the home run, who can run with power, who can run with speed and quickness. He can take that offense to a level that maybe no other running back in the draft could. Hampton's a very good running back for North Carolina. I had them opening game of the year last year for my college football slate, them versus Minnesota. He's even got a little bit of a screen game. He can catch short passes. He's not Marshall Faulk. He's not going to line up in the slot and beat your cornerbacks, but he can add something to the passing game as well. I think he's probably better than that than Genty is, but Genty's the best pure runner in this draft.
Yeah.
I love the idea of Ashton Genty returning punts and I miss the Devin Hester type players. Like I need some good punt return.
Travis Hunter too.
Travis
Yeah.
Hunter in there, like the two of them, like I need some action because special teams has been very disappointing over the past couple seasons. Like because they keep shifting the rules around, they're trying to figure it out. Like I feel like it's settled a little bit, so I'm ready for some big runs here.
Well,
And I love Genty to the Raiders because Pete Carroll is used to his successful offenses having that Marshawn Lynch, having
Yeah.
that running back who can, step in and be reliable on every single snap that they need him. And Geno Smith is solid. He's a solid quarterback, but he's not an every single play quarterback. And I think you nailed it on the head there, Chad. I do think they need this good, workhorse running back one, and I think he would be a perfect fit.
yeah, I think it would be. And yeah, to your point, Pete Carroll, he wants to win offensively by running the football, and he wants to win on defense by being stout in the secondary. And this is a clear track record of success for him, even going back to USC. Even though they had some Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks, they always ran the ball really, really well and played great defense. So that formula lends itself to them taking Ashton Genty in the draft.
And I love this new staff setup. I mean, John Spytek, Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly all together. Like that's
Yeah.
if we don't get a coach of the year here, I'm going to be very disappointed because that is a stacked house for the coaching staff.
I would agree with that.
I'm worried about the Saints, and I'll say this: a lot of these guys they want to become head coaches, right? If you have a great year as a coordinator, you want the opportunity to become a head coach. But if you're Kellen Moore, is the Saints really a good destination right now? You got Derek Carr expected to miss some time now with his injury. You've got Spencer Rattler and Jake Hayner. If Shador Sanders doesn't fall to 9, and if they don't take him at 9, what are they doing at quarterback? Jackson Dart, maybe? Is that too high for him at 9? I'm not really sure what the Saints are or where the Saints are going right now. How do you see it, Chad?
Well, the Saints put themselves in this situation almost every year where they can't be aggressive in the offseason because they've got to shore up their salary cap every year. They're always trying to clean that up. And so I really like Mickey Loomis, the general manager out there. He was the salary cap guy when I was brought to the Seahawks. So thank you, Mickey Loomis, for all the money. My family appreciates it. Thank you very much. Um, but as a GM, again, we just talked about Joe Shane and how you've got to worry about short term, but you've also got to worry about long term. And the Saints kind of take care of short term and then they try to do some moves and extend some contracts, which only just kicks that can down the road for, you've always got to pay for the salary cap some way, sometime at some point. So the Saints can continue to find themselves in a situation. And to your point, this quarterback thing, what are they going to do here? Is he really going to run it back with Derek Carr, who has shown he's just good enough to get you beat? That's not a formula for success. And if Shador slides there, is there enough structure for Shador to be successful?
Yeah.
Because you're going to bring in a rookie quarterback, he's going to go through the rookie woes, but those will be greatly exacerbated if your offensive line isn't good enough, if you don't have enough talent at the skill positions, if your defense isn't good enough and he's asked to go out there and try to score 35 points to win every game, that's going to give him awful bad habits.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Saints are in a bit of a bad way. And I get the feeling Kellen Moore will be like a lot of coaches where their first opportunity just wasn't structured well enough for him to meet any level of success. Fired in a couple of years and will probably do better his second time around being a head coach.
Yeah, I could see that. And then
I
Amanda, or
I
go
was just
ahead.
gonna say, I absolutely hate the concept. Like people are like, well, what if Aaron Rodgers were to come to the Saints? I hate it. It makes no sense. That is
Yeah.
it's a 1 year short-term band-aid, and they're gonna just be exactly in the same position next year. Like I think they have to sort out something. I mean, even just like a second or third round quarterback pick here, get someone young and working up to something because neither one of their current quarterbacks are going anywhere. Spencer Rattler he ain't it. Jake Hayner is a serviceable backup quarterback. But Aaron Rodgers to the Saints makes absolutely no sense, and I hate the rumors about that. I think that would be idiotic as a new head coach. Like, yeah, let's bring in the old guy who's full of drama and can't make up his mind about whether or not, like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine
And
Aaron
then,
Rodgers would do that, which would
Yeah,
yeah.
potentially be his last year of his career to be a 1 year rental
I know.
for the Saints, to go to the Steelers, an organization with history and track
Mhm.
record, and hell, they made the playoffs last year. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's something there
Yeah.
versus the Saints where they're trying to shed veterans and they got salary cap issues and there's holes all over the roster. Yeah, you don't want to go out like that if you're Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers.
I don't think he would either. Like Minnesota ma makes sense other than the fact that Aaron Rodgers wouldn't want to be the Brett Favre trajectory complete. Like he wouldn't want that, but it makes the most sense. Like JJ McCarthy, I wanted to be on the bench a couple years behind Kirk Cousins, and then they traded Kirk Cousins away. JJ got injured. Like it ended up going a different way. But I do think Aaron Rodgers would be the best fit there. I just hate that it's Minnesota.
As a Green
uh,
Bay, I can understand that.
Amanda, your Packers are hosting the draft. You got to do something special, right? They never take a wide receiver in the first round. They never trade up. They never do anything crazy. Of all the years to do something crazy, this is the year, right? Is Green Bay going to do anything?
Listen, Green Bay's favorite thing to do is to have my favorite draft pick on the board available and then for them to trade out of the first round away from the draft pick. Green Bay and I do not, I can't even, I don't even make my picks for them anymore because 0 times have they ever drafted my pick or done what I wanted them to in the draft. Yeah, no. Um, I do like Will Johnson. I like my Michigan guy there. I know Alex, you have him going there. It would make
Yeah.
a lot of sense. I have no track record of being able to predict what Green Bay does in the draft. So, I mean, honestly, what would make the most sense because they need bodies. Like, we don't have any glaring obvious, like, we don't need like one position star player. We need a bunch of young guys to work into the system. It
Wide
would make
receiver,
them
tough, tough.
it would make the most sense to trade out of the first round and pick up a couple extra second round picks or third round
Yeah.
picks. But I don't know if they'll do that as the host of the draft.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. They definitely need wide receiver. They're probably going to need corner with Jair
Yes.
Alexander
We could use
potentially
an edge
leaving.
rusher.
Yep. We're about out of time, Chad. My favorite pick of the first round, the pick that I'm excited about that I think could happen, and the NFL can't allow this to happen. They can't keep letting the Eagles cheat like this. If Walter Nolan is still available at pick 32, can you imagine that Eagles defensive line if you can add him to Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, and that D line?
I like the formula that Howie follows, investing up
Yeah.
front. In the end, we can do all these things as football people, and we can throw the ball all around the yard, and we can be super creative, and we can Sean McVay it and Kyle Shanahan it to death. But in the end, big giant dudes up front win football games. Just kind of
Yeah.
how it works. So
Yeah.
offensively and defensive. So yes, and the rest of the NFL has yet to find a way to outmaneuver Howie in what he wants to do.
He's so
Yeah.
good at the draft.
Again, that offseason edition of Hard Knocks with the New York Giants. The New York Giants discussed, well, we've got a $40 million a year quarterback. He should be able to get it done. He shouldn't need a $15 million a year running back. The Eagles were like, well, hell yeah, we'll pay you
We'll
more
take
than
one.
$15 million a year. And our quarterback makes $55 million a year, and we're going to win a Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
it's to get it done when the rest of the league is still thinking these idiotic thoughts.
Yeah.
So I know you're thinking it's probably not going to happen, but just simply based on their track record of making things happen, I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
if
I
I
love
was the
that
Bills
take.
at pick 30, I'd be like, oh, hell no. I would just take him off the board. Mm-mm.
Yeah, exactly. Or the
Not
Lions at
today.
28. Yeah. But I love that point you brought up, the idiotic takes, and they're so analytics bought in right now, and everything is so like, running backs don't matter, and it's a passing league, and blah blah blah. But we've seen it. The people that have watched the game since the 80s and 90s and all this time, the game is won in the trenches, consistently. So that's a great point. Chad, it's awesome having you on. Can't wait for the draft. We're just 3 days away. Thanks for making the time.
Well, happy to be on with you guys. Always a pleasure to share this stage with you. And then, of course, draft time. This is the time of year where every fan base is hopeful. Everyone believes it's going to happen for them. It's probably the most hopeful time of the year. So hopefully all the fan bases get exactly what they want. And then, of course, we get to judge this, 3 years down the road and see who actually pans out and who doesn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well,
We
thanks
already
for
know
your
what mine
time.
is going to be. I'm going to be annoyed, and then 12 months from now, I'll be like, actually, it works out okay. Like, I was pissed about Jordan Love draft. Like, what the hell was that? We have Aaron Rodgers. Never mind. I was wrong. Yeah.
I was going to bring that up, but I was
Yeah.
nice.
Well, great stuff, guys. Another successful episode, and we'll have to do another one down the road. But great stuff as always. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know what you think, and have a great week, guys. Peace out.